Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Welcome, dear friends. Hope you are well today. I think today I'd like to just open immediately to your sharing and your questions. I've been talking with people for the last few days, and it seems as though and this may not be true with any of you tonight, but I think for some of you it is. There has been a great deal of uncertainty in people's minds about the state of affairs. And so I thought tonight we would just see what you would like to talk about tonight. If you would like to share what your thoughts are, what your sadhana is like at the moment. Hello, Diana.
I really would like to share my joy, the great joy having Anya here. That yes, from
Yes,
Arunachala.
of course.
It's
Of
such
course.
a tremendous joy here, and we are sharing in the nature of Kriti, in this light of Kriti, we are sharing really beingness, just beingness. Being and with a lot of joy. That's I can really say. And I would like to share in the downstairs room, in Ramana's room, there is on the wall, there's a picture, and there are some sentences written on the ocean. It's a picture like an island. And there are some sentences written into the water. And many years ago, it was placed there, and it was always very big inspiration, very big inspiration. And now, during this joining time and sitting often in silence together, and so I looked at this again, and I felt, that's it. That's it. This is completely it. What is here? And if you allow, I share what is written. If you allow, I share these few words. It says, don't belong to anything. Don't belong to anybody. Just be. Feel your being first and foremost. Just feel it first and foremost. Don't compare. Don't compete. Just be your being. Just be your being. And this Rishi, it is so alive here. I could really, tears come. It's so alive. It is like carrying through completely. And nothing else. It's carrying through completely. That's because there's the sharing of Arunachala times, of Arunachala, all what is alive at Arunachala, all what I experienced at Arunachala, very profoundly also during the time there with all what happens there, what all is there. And it was felt that that Ramana brought me to the nature, just be still in nature, and whatever is deeply known or so, just swing it, just let it swing. It's nothing else needed. Just let it radiate and swing, and that's what happens in the moment. What's totally happens, and this is such a joy and a bliss and grace. And I really thank you for sending even more grace. So fortunately, we can share it because it's obvious too much for one. Obviously, too much for one. So we split it half, 50-50.
Okay, 100.
100, right. Thank you, Rishi.
Yes, of course. And what's being pointed to here is the ever-present nature of consciousness, of the heart of being, and that this is not something we have to attain. This is something we are. But in order to know that, we have to be able to see through all of the stories of me and mine. Awakened living begins when we begin to question, who am I? What is the nature of this experience? And we do this by looking deeply into the sensations of the body, into the thoughts, into the emotions, not as a form of attachment to them, not as a way of investigating them deeply in the psychological sense, if we're talking about thoughts or emotions, not like this, but looking through to see the emptiness which is on the other side. That awareness itself, in its ever-present nature, does not contain any stories of me. That which you are in this moment and in every moment, before the thought I, when we sit in this presence that Dhyana is pointing toward, this presence which is here as the simple notion or the simple direct perception, I exist, or I am, as Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj said, I am that. When we stay in the here and now with a strong connection to the recognition that I exist, we allow the phenomenon of the mind to come and go like leaves on the wind. We have no more interest in stopping the mind than we have in stopping the wind. It is in the nature of mind to come and go, coming from where we don't know. The foundations of thoughts, of thinking, have their foundation in the vast space of consciousness itself. The Buddha was very clear about the interdependent nature of thought, experience, the senses. And his recommendation was, in some way, let them come, let them go. Know them for what they are, but don't take them to be me. This is a similarity between his teaching and Ramana's teaching. When we are simply connected to the here, now, as awareness itself, as being, consciousness, we're able to see what comes, we're able to see what lasts for a while, and we're able to see what goes. And through this, we realize the impermanent nature of all of our experience, whether it's sense experience, thought experience, worldly experience. We see what comes, we see it clearly. We know it to not be the self, and yet we know it to be an expression of the supreme consciousness itself. So we accept it for what it is without making it anything else. In doing this, there is a kind of liberation that happens. It happens within us in the freedom of our own being, and it happens within the phenomenon itself. When phenomenon is allowed to come and then to go, as is required in its nature as impermanence, when this is allowed to happen, naturally, organically, you can say, without interference by a me or a mine, grasping or clinging, when it's allowed to come and then to go, its nature is liberation in this moment. There is nothing which can remain except awareness itself, being consciousness. Being consciousness is that which is here, under all conditions, under all circumstances, waking, dreaming, and sleeping, past, present, and future. But as the dynamic display of consciousness itself, it is not mine, so I need not cling to anything. In not clinging, all phenomenon, all comings and goings, all phenomena are liberated. It is their nature upon their arising to fall. In this way, it can be said, do nothing. For this reason, it can be said, do nothing. Notice what is here, but don't cling to it.
Can I ask a question?
You didn't raise your hand. Your electronic hand. I can't see you. I have so many screens open. I have to have your electronic hand, but now I can hear you. So go ahead
Okay.
and I'll get you open. Okay, there you are. Hello,
Uh,
Ambika.
I know this is a very common question, but it's arising. So, why do I get identified? Or better way of putting it, why do I still get identified?
Why do I still get identified? Yeah. You know, vasanas, the conditioning, the tendencies that we come into this life with, referred to as prarabdha karma. When we come into this life, we come in with a certain sack full of tendencies in order to help us to understand who we are. But along with that, with those tendencies comes a certain momentum. And we can never know where that momentum comes from. We don't know whether that momentum comes from our early childhood. We don't know whether it possibly comes from another lifetime, if that's your belief system. We don't know why this conditioning continues to return over and over. But if we see the vasanas for what they are in a certain way, in terms of our sadhana, what we understand is they are creating for us an opportunity. And that opportunity is to see through them in a way, or penetrate through them. This is the foundation of the question, who am I, or what is aware here, is that we're always trying to go to the source of being so that whatever is appearing on the screen of awareness doesn't become a trap for us. In other words, we don't continue to identify with it. So up until a certain point up until we come into contact with this way of using the vasanas or using the tendencies, not to look at the behavior itself, the thoughts themselves, the conditioning itself, but rather to ask that question, who is aware of this? What is aware of this? Who am I? When we reach the point in our maturity that we are led to this teaching, we are led there because we are ready. The vasana has a certain momentum, the tendency to identify repeatedly with that tendency or with that conditioning. That tendency is there and it has a certain momentum. So I just encourage you not to be overly concerned with the fact that a particular vasana or a set of vasanas tends to repeat itself in your life, or tends to come up again over and over, or tends to run like a tape over and over, and you don't seem to know how to switch it off. The way to switch it off is to just keep asking, what is aware of this? And this brings us to that moment that I was speaking about before, where when something rises on the screen of awareness, the act of liberation for that vasana is to see it, react minimally or not at all, and let it go without identifying. Now you said, why do I identify with it over and over? If you pursue that question, these kinds of questions the Buddha called the imponderables. And the reason he called them the imponderables was because he said, you can look for an eternity and you will find what came before and what came before and what came before and what came before and what came before. And none of it will be true because it will all be a story in the mind. So he said, better just to swat those things aside. They are imponderables. Don't take the time. Know that you are being, consciousness and bliss. He didn't say this. Ramana said this, and Advaita says this. Know that you are being, consciousness and bliss. And that what happens even when you take a moment where you realize, oh, I'm identified again with this behavior, or I'm identified again with this habit, or this way of thinking, or this way of reacting. As soon as you know that, you actually have the opportunity at that moment to know that you are not that you are that which is aware that the vasana is there. It's here now. I've seen it, but I'm not it. And in doing this, we undercut, we chop little by little by little at this way in which we identify with conditioning. And even a large tree with a deep root eventually falls when there's a small chop, chop, chop. And the key to that chop, chop, chop is persistence. This is why we keep saying, who is aware of this? Not what am I aware of and why, but who? Because the question who directly attacks or chops at this root of belief in a separate identity. And even though it can be frustrating at times that this goes on for such a long period of time, remember that every tree eventually falls, and continue and persist.
The last one gives me some hope.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Thank
Yes.
you.
Welcome. Welcome.
Yeah, I'm presently living in a war zone, and
Yeah.
when I'm trying very much to spend time in contemplation, in meditation, but sometimes my body reacts quicker than my soul, and when I hear a siren, I get into a panic, into a stress mode, and it takes me a couple of minutes, and I get out of this. But I feel that it's depleting my energy so much, and I'm asking maybe of some guidance for this moment,
Yeah.
these few
Yeah,
moments.
sure. Yes, there are several people on the screen tonight who are living in war zones. Yes, both where you are and also in northern India and places like that. So this is the conditions under which many people in the satsang find themselves right now. Living with this kind of fear and this kind of uncertainty. So there are a couple of things that I'd like to say about that are true just on the human level, and that is you have no control over the fight or flee reaction. So you have to provide yourself with some grace for that. It sounds like you're doing that. If you are coming back into this present moment, even after just a couple of minutes, when you hear the sirens or you hear the explosions or whatever you can, then actually you're doing quite well. There's nothing you can do about the circumstances in which you find yourself. However, these circumstances can be used as a motivation to awaken in this life, because what you're feeling in a certain way feels like fear, of course, but it also is the recognition that life can be very short and very brief, and you have uncertainty abounding. It's around you at all times, everywhere. But you can use this uncertainty. You can do exactly what you're doing, which is to say, I will persist with my desire for liberation in this life. And now I have this additional motivation. because I am surrounded by war. This can be an extremely valuable motivation to know that nothing is guaranteed. Most of the time, even spiritual aspirants, but ordinary people certainly, become complacent about realizing the truth and about knowing who they are, because the circumstances are pleasant. But in these moments, not that we wish it on ourselves, this is when we find ourselves in a circumstance that is very unpleasant, where there's a lot of fear, where there's a lot of uncertainty, then we become more determined to use this moment to wake up, to ask this question: who experiences this fear? What is aware here? And can I be simultaneously afraid for this physical body, which I know I am not, but as you said, the body reacts way before the mind can catch up with it and subdue it. But nonetheless, to go through that practice is to be offering peace in the middle of the war zone where you are, because your determination is to come back to the heart over and over and over, and to use this very difficult circumstance to do that, to bring awareness of grace in the midst of a very difficult situation. I remember when I was 18, being in the Vietnam War and sitting on the top of a building, a small building, along a road. And in front of me was all the implements of war laid out completely. All the armaments, all of the bombs, all of the equipment. And as the sun rose, 6 or 7 monks came out of a monastery. And we were on one side of the road, opposition on the other side of the road. And they walked between the guns, going from their temple into a village to get their morning alms round. And in this moment, my life was transformed, because I saw this. And even though I had to be there a long time after that, I never forgot that moment. And I never forgot that recognition that whatever this life was about, I want what they have. And this is what eventually took me to the monastery, because I knew that this possibility was there. So just do your best, but don't miss the opportunity. Yeah. Be very kind to yourself.
Thank you.
Okay? Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Leonardo, hello. Happy to see you again.
Thank you. And first, I would like to report this clear deepening in sadhana, the sense of peace and presence, joy, happiness. It's just becoming more and more evident every day. Deeply grateful for that. I feel the silent sitting sessions are getting somehow deeper, stronger, calmer. And that is having a beautiful influence over like my entire existence. And it feels so nice. Feels so good.
Yeah.
And then now, recently in the past 2 weeks, there have been certain events, circumstances, and interactions that seem to be calling me to get a bit more involved in the world and to socialize a bit more, to interact with other beings. And even with the most of the interactions that I've been having recently, in most of them, these topics of meditation and sadhana and spirituality, they come up naturally. But sometimes I feel that I get distracted. That seems to be like just distraction. And then I get to this struggle, maybe, to feel, should I just fully retreat and actively avoid social interaction?
I'm not going to tell you to retreat and actively avoid.
Yeah.
I think it's more important that you ask, what is the nature of the resistance? What is the nature of, you said these conversations are happening quite naturally, coming
Yeah,
quite
sure.
quite organically. It's not something you're seeking.
No.
But what you're recoiling against and rightfully so, is that you realize that there may not at this moment, there doesn't seem to be sometimes enough stability to not become identified through the conversations. But this is something that you can look at directly. You can ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? Not to analyze yourself psychologically, but to realize that in order to feel any kind of resistance, in order to feel any kind of distraction, the very first thing that has to happen is there has to be an identification with me. Because the implication is, I am distracted. I feel resistance. So I would just encourage you, go directly to undermining the I. Don't worry about the circumstances that brought it on. Who am I? Who feels distracted? What is distraction? Distraction is a series of thoughts that lead me to feel like I am once again identified as a body-mind. So work on it that way. Don't push anything away that comes naturally. You see, life has this way of sending to us those moments which show us where our resistance to being consciousness sits, where our tendency to identify with the body-mind experience resides. And so if people are naturally coming to you, asking questions, if these conversations are happening naturally, I would simply say that when some kind of distractive sense or resistance, when I imagine in the beginning the conversations are just fine, but as they go on, maybe for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, you can feel this sense of resistance or this sense of identification begin to build up. And that's when you feel like the distraction is there, and that's when you want to pull away. But that's the time to inquire, who is this I that's feeling this way? Is there anybody here? Look and see.
Also, I don't know if this may be connected with this. I guess throughout my life, I have been a very just quiet and shy person, and
Mhm.
yeah, there has always been this deep sense of like shyness and try to again avoid people.
Yeah.
Now that has been changing organically, as you said.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And this is probably the sense of resistance that you have also
yeah, probably I
is
was
coming
thinking
up because you have this experience of yourself as a shy, maybe withdrawn person.
for sure.
And I want to tell you that being a shy and withdrawn person has nothing to do with the mm, if you begin to shine from the heart, life is not going to care that you are a shy and reserved person. I know this from personal experience. So examine the I-ness of it, the I perception, and let whatever comes come, because life is trying to send you maybe in a certain direction or toward a certain usefulness. Life wants to use you in a certain way. But if you are saying, I am shy, you are identified. Just answer the question. When someone comes to you, just answer the question. You don't need to pursue being asked questions. But I know you're a very kind and loving person, so I know that you can remind yourself that if someone approaches you and they have a sincere question, that the heart of compassion will open in you and you will naturally want to help, or you will naturally want to respond. And this will be strong enough to override your shyness. And then after you're done talking, or in my case, after I turn off the computer, I can retreat to my natural state of silence and quietness. But, when 7:30 on Sunday comes, I am here. And I don't do that. I'm just compelled to be here, to be with you, to hear what you have to say, to share with you. And you will do the same thing because it's in your nature as being consciousness, as compassion, empathy, sympathy. So use all of these experiences only to ask this question: when I say I, when I feel I, to what am I referring? To whom am I referring? So now, though, these interactions become part of your sadhana. They don't become something you have to avoid, something you have to turn away from.
Okay.
Okay? Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. And, and respect your nature as a very quiet person. You respect your nature in that way. We've talked about this before. This is important for you to also respect and accept your nature as a very quiet person. And so you don't have to put yourself out there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just answer the question in front of you. And when it feels time for you to go back into silence for a day or two or three or four, then do that. Give yourself permission to be exactly as you are, whether you are speaking or whether you are silent. This is not you. This is the nature of awareness through this particular body-mind. Give it a try.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, dear one. Dear one. Yes, please. See you again soon. Okay, Anil, thank you for waiting.
Hello, Namaste.
Namaste.
Right. So, thank you for keeping me waiting, because I felt my question was too trivial after, was it Suzanne Fisher's?
Okay.
So I was didn't want to go after her, but
Uh,
I just wanted to say that, since I've been practicing seriously with Advaita, it's helped me so much to, with the question of who is thinking, who is feeling, or what is thinking, what is feeling, to let go of many wrong perceptions, and let go of many feelings that were leading to negative action, especially with anger, with fear. And it's been it's been an incredible transformation in my life.
yes.
And I'm it's really opened up so many doors for me as well. I always feel with Advaita, it's always like Zen mind, beginner's mind. There's always something fresh that you can ask yourself,
Yes.
what is feeling, what is seeing, what is hearing, what is.
Correct.
And I say all this, but there's I'm come up to a big block. Okay. And the big block is something which is not so much about thought and feeling, it's more about craving. And it's
Okay.
craving in particular food. And I find that so many things are transformed, but I can't, I'm not able to transform the craving for food. And I kind of, basically I eat very healthily, but I just eat too much. And when I sit at the table, I enjoy eating very much. I enjoy cooking, but and I enjoy being at the table with friends, family. All those things are really great. But I just have I can't, even with my practice, and I've been practicing now for a while on what is craving, who is craving, and it's so overpowering that I'm very it doesn't seem to be working. In fact, I'm actually putting on more weight, right, since I started to work on this. And it concerns me not just about the weight. It's about your kind of like my vitality and my feeling good in myself, and also I want to have the lightness of being to be able to practice more deeply, and a lightness of body to find the lightness of being. So I just wondered if because this is something about craving. If anything you could give me to help, I'd really appreciate.
Well, the craving for you happens to be food, but the craving for others is different things. And for many people, it's also food. Have you actually noticed at the time that you are engaged in cooking, eating, sharing, have you actually become aware in that moment of the craving as part of that activity? Or do you just know about it afterwards?
Afterwards.
So for you, it's very pleasurable then. So you are happy to go into the pleasure until it turns unpleasant.
Yes.
Yes, yes. And this is the way of pleasure, isn't it? You know, we all love, not we all, but most people love to have a taste of chocolate after a meal. And the pleasure is almost immediate to have some sweet, some treat, something after a meal. But if you eat a 2-pound box of chocolates, you come to the end of the pleasant and you move into the unpleasant. Yes? So one of the things that you can do for yourself then is you can begin to understand earlier that there's going to be a moment when you're eating, enjoying the company of others, or when you're cooking, when you are going to move from pleasant to unpleasant. If you remain mindful during the time that you're engaged in any of those activities, there's going to come this moment when you realize, if I keep going in this direction, this very pleasant activity is going to become unpleasant. Right now, it sounds like you move into it and you enjoy the pleasure of it. That's the habitual nature of pleasure. This is not you, it's the habitual nature of pleasure. And then you don't catch it until you're already disturbed by it. It's already become unpleasant. And then that unpleasantness wakes you up. So that's good. But you can also come into it now with the understanding that pleasant is going to turn to unpleasant. And what you want to do is you want to set your sights during the meal, during the encounter with other people, during the cooking process for going down the middle, for knowing this is pleasant, this is pleasant, this is pleasant. Oh, this is becoming unpleasant. Begin to know where that point is for you, and it will help you with regulating that eating place. But I also want to say something else for everyone. And you said that this is a trivial question compared to what Suzanne had to say. I want to say, no, this is not. Because where Suzanne is living right now, what she's experiencing right now, is the consequence of the unresolved conflict of many, many, many beings within themselves. One of the ways that we wake up to the truth of who we are is we begin to look at these moments of what we think are trivial conflicts within ourselves and realize that the conflict that we're seeing all around us or in the world or expressing itself in some way is the unresolved conflict that we feel within ourselves. So eating, in your case, or overeating or overindulging, as you said, you've had issues with anger and stuff before. Well, eating is a habit that is often tied to this unresolved conflict within ourselves. So I would encourage you to not only see where is this point that things move from pleasant to unpleasant, but also begin to really explore what is the unresolved conflict, if you will, that is here, that leads to that overindulgence that causes you then to feel this sense of conflict within yourself after the fact. Does this make sense to you?
Yeah.
Because every single conflict that we experience in our lives starts somewhere deep within that process of identification with ourselves as the body. So what you're experiencing is a sense of identification with yourself as the body. So you talked a lot about overindulgence, but enjoying certain parts of it, but then you start to put on weight, you start to feel bad about yourself, then you become critical of yourself because you're not engaging in the sadhana in the way that you'd like because there isn't a lightness of being which is there. Do you see how this conflict proliferates and becomes the foundation for all this other conflict within your own being?
So from what you're saying, I understand that the kind of like not being able, well, being a kind of slave, if I can put it that way, to the craving is it creates conflict inside me, but at the same time, that attachment to the craving is coming from unresolved conflict. It's
Yes,
both. It's the chicken and the egg.
it's the chicken and the egg. So how do we, in the Advaita inquiry process, how do we get ourselves out of that chicken and the egg circumstance? At any point in that story that you tell yourself that you are overindulging, or you're gaining weight, or you're not doing your sadhana properly because you're not light enough to do your sadhana because you're over. At any point in that tape loop, you can insert this question: who am I referring to when I let this dialogue run in my mind? Not about the dialogue itself, but who am I referring to? When I say I am overeating, I am overindulging, I am not light enough to do my sadhana. I. If you look at that tape loop, you will see that you either directly or indirectly refer to I as me, body, mind. Me runs throughout that whole tape. So at some point, insert the question, who am I referring to when this tape gets running? I keep saying I this, I that, I should, I shouldn't, I. This is the foundation of the struggle, the conflict. The conflict is not necessarily in the behavior. The behavior is a result of the conflict inside yourself that doesn't realize who it is. It thinks it's the habits. It thinks it's the conditioning. It thinks it's the thoughts that it's having about the habits and about the conditioning. But it's not. You are none of that. This is why Advaita says, ask the question, who am I? And when this misunderstanding about who you are comes up, say, I am not that. I am not that. And in so doing, open up the space for the inquiry to go deeper by the question, then who am I? To whom am I referring when I say I? When I say I have this bad habit, when I say I have stuck in this vasana, when I say whatever it is I say about myself, this is identification with the body, with the mind, and it's all there as part of conditioning. So now begin to identify the conditioning. This is a moment of conditioned thought. Who am I referring to when I say that this thinking is conditioned? Who am I referring to when I say I? Unravel the question of who am I rather than trying to unravel the behavior or the behaviors.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. 'Cause this is exactly my problem is, when it comes to thoughts and feelings.
Whose problem?
Okay, thank you. Oh, shit,
Who are you referring to? You see, people, you have to catch the mind just like that. Who are you referring to? You have to catch it now. When it tells you that this is my problem, stop it. Boom, bring it to a halt, chop it. You are responding to a falsehood. You don't know who you are, and you think you do. But I'm telling you, you do not. Now ask yourself, to whom am I referring when I say I or me or mine? Are you referring to the Supreme Self, or are you referring to some aspect of the body mind? as a conditioned vehicle. That's it. Penetrate deeply into that question. You see, when this question is really, when you are persistent and unwilling to give up with this question, that very question can penetrate through this vasana. And you might have to do it another time or 10 times, but it will penetrate. It can also penetrate through in one moment. It can stop you in your tracks like it just did. And when we are fully stopped, when we have completely abandoned this belief system about who I think I am in favor of who I really am, the response is that we laugh or we smile. We see through the illusion immediately.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. That was great. You were definitely paying attention right then. When our default position becomes automatically, to whom am I referring when I say I, which is what Anil just did, or what I just pointed him towards. When this is our default position, this happens naturally, right? The reason this can be caught that quickly is because we have done it over and over and over. We have stopped ourselves. We have come to a stop. We have made that chop at the root of the vasana over and over and over. And then suddenly we realize that every time this story of me, this story of mine, comes with that kind of unconscious habit, in comes the question, to whom was I referring when I just said that? When I just said me, when I just said my, what was I referring to? And there's an absolute knowing in that moment that what was being referred to is not the truth. It was not the truth. And then the question can be asked, well, who am I? What is the truth of my being? What is the truth of my nature? It's not this story of me and mine. It's something with much more space than that. And then all of the things that need to be worked on or can be worked on, all the vasanas, things that come, they can float in that space without there being an attachment to them. Now they don't need to be suppressed. They don't need to be criticized. You don't need to be criticized for existing the way you are. You come to know yourself as the space in which all of this is rising. And that space does have space even for these limited thoughts and so on. But now, instead of being in the center of the field of view, demanding all the attention and all the focus, now these little my's, these little me's, this unconsciousness about to whom you are referring, now it moves over here. It's just one little point over here. But you know yourself as the vast space of being, consciousness. And everything else is dancing in that. So be graceful with yourself. Give yourself the space you need to see yourself beyond the limited mind and the limited expression of the mind. Hello, Anya.
Hi Rishi, hi everybody. Thank you, Anil, for sharing this, and it really I totally relate to that, and I've been struggling to keep my hand up and down. And especially when you mentioned, Rishi, that conflict, I suddenly put the two things. It was like, well, there is boredom. You know, I'm rather being with food or YouTube than with the nature of my being. And there is the mind saying, okay, it's enough. You know, how many hours a day do you want to sit? And what else can we do here? And there is this knowing also to, I don't know if there's knowing, maybe there's a resistance of going deeper. There is kind of maybe an arrogance. I know it, I am that. There are moments when I am that, and other moments when I stuff food and or being bored and thinking of feeling suddenly depressed by boredom, thinking nothing is here to yeah. So maybe yeah, so okay. I took the courage to put it out, and I'm waiting for
Very good. I'm so happy I'm so happy that you did. I'm so happy that you did, because this thing about boredom, I haven't talked about this in a long time. Boredom it's just one of those mental mind states that comes up, and people would much rather be in conflict than be bored. And this not being able to remain in what we're identifying as boredom is the source of conflict in marriages. It's the source of conflict in families. It's the source of conflict within societies. But boredom is a necessary, managing boredom, I should say, is a necessary part of the spiritual journey, because of exactly what you said. If we don't recognize that boredom is here, we will stuff our face, stuff our mind, we will argue with other people, we will create conflict, we will spread around our unhappiness about being bored all over the place. So understand that the issue is not boredom as a concept. Everyone feels a certain amount of what we call boredom at different times. The opportunity that's being missed is the recognition that there is something, not a thing, of course, but there is something which identifies boredom. And then the vasana takes over. And the vasana says, boredom is not good. We don't like boredom. So let's eat something, smoke something, cuddle someone. Let's find some way to deal with this boredom. But from the perspective of inquiry, this is a golden opportunity, because there's such a structure around boredom that if we ask the question, or we just simply notice that we are experiencing boredom and there is a reaction that comes with that, and we ask this question, and who is aware of this and who knows this, and we look for that one. Now we do two things. We take the energy off the boredom and we turn the boredom itself into the fuel for the inquiry. And we find an interest and an enthusiasm, again, even briefly, for continuing with the inquiry. Okay? Now, having said that, I just want to address what you said about YouTube and what did you say, YouTube and eating or something?
Yeah.
Okay, so a couple of things. Eating is necessary because this is a food body.
Yeah, but that is a different level.
So don't be too harsh about that. But do know when you're eating out of boredom. Because if you're eating out of boredom, then you're not turning the energy of boredom toward the inquiry. You're actually using the energy of boredom to go back into the vasana. Okay. So know the difference. So you have another option. The same is true with YouTube. You know, I mean, but at the same time, understand that I'm going to say this and I'm going to catch flack for this. Just understand that YouTube was also a vehicle for the recognition of truth, which is available all over the world now. There was a time when you would have to spend your entire life traveling to India on a very slow boat or riding on a camel, you know, through Arabia to get to India in order to know these things which are so readily available to us now. So I just encourage you to be sure when you're feeling bored and you need to look at something on YouTube, give yourself a piece of candy if you need to, but also notice that there are things on YouTube which are about the teaching. Notice that there are things there are sharings on there that can again turn that attention from boredom toward enthusiasm for the inquiry. Because you can go on there and you can hear, someone can be reading a beautiful meditation from Ramana's teaching. Someone can be reading a beautiful text from the Avadhuta Gita. Someone can, the Ribhu Gita is there, the full text. So, I mean, find a way to turn your boredom into something which is supportive of your journey, supportive of what your first goal is, or your first interest is, which is that which is awakening.
Let me utter that doubt. I totally go with what you say. However, there's this Rakshasa. Yeah, it is, all this is there on YouTube, and there's a special quantity of food which is sattvic or which is even a little bit rajasic, but there is this being, or there's this quality of, no, I don't want that, I want potato chips, or I want to see puppies and little kitten or some stupid comedy or
This is a vasana. Yes, but this is a vasana. You are taking it very personal. Vasanas are not, they are not personal. Vasanas are not here to just to disturb you. They are also here to awaken you. And the fact that you are aware of them means that you can use them. Now the question becomes, how do I use this? And this is asking this question and then persistently and consistently engaging in this has to become an interest for you.
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
It has to become an interest. Your interest has to not be the potato chips, even if you're putting them in your mouth. Your interest has to be, how is this vasana happening? To whom is it happening? Why, it's like it has to be turned back into the source, and I agree with you. Once you give into it, this is why it's said in the teaching, you can never, you cannot conquer a vasana by indulging it. But what you can do is meet it and find a way to turn it back toward the source.
Yes.
This takes determination, discrimination, persistence, right? These are, if you look deeply into the teaching, you will see that these are the factors, if you will, of awakening, or the factors of enlightenment: determination, persistence, consistency, right? Enthusiasm for practice. These are the pillars of sadhana. So we want to keep at the forefront of our daily life.
Yes.
How can I use this?
Yes. Thank you.
Rather than I'm a terrible person because I eat potato chips. Is that helpful? Okay. Vasanas are vasanas. Don't delude yourself into thinking they mean something about you. Don't build your personality and your identity around your vasanas. Just know they are vasanas, and that they must be chopped. And you have the strength and the will to do that, and the desire to do that.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. Very good. Please don't give up on yourselves. In this long game, in this game of persistence, discrimination, and so on, in this long game of sadhana, all the rest of the world can give up on you, but you cannot. You must not. No matter what the mind says about you, no matter what others say about you, no matter what the world says about you, persistently and consistently remind yourself that which is aware is here now. What is being observed, what is being witnessed, what is being experienced is the dynamic display of consciousness alone. If you look to see only being, consciousness, in all that you experience, that you think, that you see, taste, touch, smell, and hear, you will come to know who you are. It's said in Japanese culture that the Bodhisattva Guan Yin, who was a manifestation of Avalokiteshvara in Tibetan, the Bodhisattva of compassion. It's said that Kuan Yin specifically awakened because she opened to the cries of the world. She heard the pain, the suffering of all beings in the world, and that this hearing and the compassion that arose out of her recognition of the suffering of all beings was enough to enlighten her fully in a moment. This is why I keep encouraging all of you to use what is here: taste, touch, smell, thought, emotion, whatever it is, eating. Use what is here to ask the question, who? Who? If you ask who is hearing this, as Kuan Yin did, and came to realize her nature as compassion, that she realized that she was the compassionate heart of being that was hearing the cries of sentient beings throughout all of creation. Use everything. This is what the saints and the sages have told us. They have pointed this way. What is it? Discomfort, heat, overeating. What is it for you? You see, it's not that there isn't anyone in here who doesn't have vasanas. Some are standing firm and knowing this is a vasana, and I am not that. And some are still trapped by the vasana when it comes up. So just keep moving in the direction of freedom. Know yourself as being, consciousness, compassion, love, kindness, grace, patience, persistence. Each of you has within you these qualities to greater or lesser extent. So for whatever it is for you that needs to be strengthened, strengthen it. But most of all, understand there is nothing about you that prevents you from knowing you are that which is free, aware, here, now. Accept the belief that you are less than that. You are being, consciousness, and bliss. If you must believe something, believe that. Mind follows. Liberate, liberate, liberate. Use everything for liberation. Let go of what needs to be let go of. If some belief, behavior, thought, pattern, or conditioning limits you to believing that you are a body or you are a mind, discard it. Don't keep lying to yourself. You are being, consciousness, and bliss. There is nothing else here. That which is aware in this moment is eternally aware. It was aware before you were born. It came into being in this form. But look deeply into this form, and you will see the formless being, consciousness, and bliss. Hari Om Tat Sat.